Good morning, one and all present here. A warm welcome to you all. Myself, I am Pawan Kumar, third year student of Aeronautical Department in Hindustan University. Here, this is my team: Gokul Harshit, Nag Sai Shivaram, Vignesh, and Chayadip. Today, me and my team is going to present here is about industrial acts and regulations in India. Our main agenda is to make everyone aware of the law, labor laws acts, and the industrial relations and safety acts, and introduce you to few of the major laws that have been enacted by the government. Okay, now let's get into the introduction of the topic. As we all know, India is a developing country and it has a large number of semi-skilled and unskilled people who work in factories as laborers. The government is so concerned about the workers and passed many rules encountering the aspects of wages, working conditions, accident compensation, benefits and bonus, and medical health of the factory workers. In addition to that, in our country, we have state level governments usually have a separate labor ministry which seeks to ensure compliance with state labor laws. Now, these are the major trust areas of the government concerning labor laws, labor policy and legislation, safety, health and welfare of laborers, social security of laborers, policy relating to special target groups such as women and children, child labor, industrial relations and enforcement of labor laws in the central sphere, workers' education, labor and employment statistics, immigration of laborers for unemployed abroad, employment service and vocational training, administration of central labor and employment service, and finally, the international cooperation in labor and employment matters. Labor laws. Government attention is focused on promoting and welfare activities and providing social security to the labor forces both in organized and inorganized sectors in tandem with the progress of liberalization. Here, these are the various labor legislation enacted by the central government can be classified into the following different broad categories: laws relating to industrial relations, laws relating to wages, laws relating to social securities. These laws are enacted in order to solve the problems of the laborers. Like we can see, like the laws related to wages, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Wages Act, Payment of Bonus Act, and laws related to Social Security, Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act 1952, Employees State Insurance Act 1948 for the insurance of the employees, and Labor Welfare Fund Act, Payment of Gratitude Act 1972, Employee Condensation Act 1923. The laws relating to working hours, conditions and service for employment are the Factory Act 1948, Industrial Employment Act 1946, Interstate Migration Workmen Act 1979, Weekly Holiday Act 1942, National and Festival Holiday Act 1963, the Plantation Labor Act 1951, the Mines Act 1952, the Dock Workers Act 1986. These are the laws which are related to perspective sectors, helping the workers in having the comfortable time, comfortable place, and a good condition for them to work without any hazards, overtime, and stress jobs. And now, laws relating to equality and empowerment of women. Equal Remuneration Act 1976, Maternity Benefit Act 1961. These are the laws for the women to bring the equality in wages and also for the safety and health of the women. Prohibitive labor laws like Bonded Labor System Act 1976, Child Labor Act 1986, the BD and Cigar Workers Act 1966, the Sexual Harassment at the Workplace Act 2030. These are the most important prohibitive labor laws for like Child Labor Act. It is for the children who are less than age of 14 are not allowed to work, and the Sexual Harassment at the Workplace Act 2013. These are the most important enacted laws which were passed by a government. And finally, the laws relating to employment and training. The further details of these acts and laws will be clearly explained by my team.
Good morning, all. My name is Gokul Rashid. Now I'm going to explain about laws relating to the industrial relations. That is Industrial Dispute Act 1947 and Trade Unions Act 1926. An industrial dispute is defined as a conflict or difference in opinion between management and workers regarding employment. It is a disagreement between an employer and employee's representative, that is a trade union. The issue of disagreement is usually either relating to the pay or other working conditions. Now, when it comes to trade unions, the trade unions are organizations formed by the workers from related fields that work for the common interest of its members. They help workers in issues like fairness of pay, good working environment, hours of work, and benefits. They represent a cluster of workers and provide link between the workers and management. Now we'll see the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. Government implemented this act from the year 1947. Generally, this act has been enacted for investigation and settlement of the industrial disputes, any industrial establishment between the management and the workers or any other. The Industrial Disputes Act defines the industrial dispute as a dispute or differences between workmen and employers. Dismissal of an individual workman is deemed to be an industrial dispute. It's an example. The IDA Act provides for the constitution of the workers committee consisting of employers and workmen to promote measures for securing and preserving amity and good relations between the employer and the workmen. Endeavors to resolve any material difference of opinion in respect of such matters. The ID Act provides for the appointment of conciliation officers, board of conciliation, courts of inquiry, labor courts, tribunals. Another method recognized for settlement of disputes is through arbitration. This Industrial Dispute Act provides a legislative way of settling disputes. The goal of a percentage machinery as provided under the Act to create an environment where disputes do not rise at all. And now we'll see about the Trade Unions Act 1926. The Trade Union Act seeks to provide for the registration of the trade unions in India and for the protection of the same. Further, the Trade Unions Act also, in certain respects, defines the laws relating to the registered trade unions like mode of registration, application for registration, provisions to be contained in the rules of the trade union, minimum requirement for the membership of a trade union, rights and liabilities of the registered trade unions, etc. Both these acts seeks to resolve the disputes between the workmen and the management without any violence or others. Now we are going to see about laws relating to the wages. Means these are the acts that every industry should follow regarding the paying for the workers. In this topic, we are gonna discuss about 3 acts regarding the wages. Their Minimum Wage Act, payment of wages, payment of bonus. Now let's come to Minimum Wages Act. It was implemented in year 1948. This act provides for the fixing of minimum rates of wages in certain employments. The minimum wages are prescribed by states through notifications in the state's gazette under the minimum wages rules of the specific state. The term wage has been defined to mean all remuneration capable of being expressed in terms of money, which would, if the terms of the contract of the employment expressed or implied were fulfilled, be payable to a person employed in respect of his employment or worker done in such an employment and includes house rent allowances, but does not include any house accommodation or supply of light water and any other amenity or service excluded by general or special order of the appropriate government. Any traveling allowance or the value of any traveling concession should not be included in the or pay salary. And this is a graph sheet of the minimum wages and labor productivity in Asian countries from the year 2010 to 19. And explained about different countries, how they pay. The red bar is the annual productivity growth. Blue bar is the annual real minimum wage growth. Now, Payment of Wages Act 1936. The Payment of Wages Act 1936 is an act to regulate the payment of wages to certain class employed persons. The Payment of Wages Act seeks to ensure that employers make a timely payment of wages to the employees. The establishment and to prevent unauthorized deduction from the wages. According to the Payment of Wages Act, all wages shall be in a current coin or currency notes or in both. It is, however, provided that employer may, after obtaining the written authorization of the employed person, pay him the wages either by check or by crediting the wages in his bank account. Payment of Bonus Act. The Payment of Bonus Act was implemented in the year 1965. It provides for the payment of bonuses to the persons employed in certain establishments in India, either on the basis of their profits or the basis of the production or productivity. It is applicable to every establishment in which 20 or more % are employed, and all the employees are drawing a remuneration of less than 10,000. The employees who have worked for less than 30 days are not eligible to receive the bonus under the Bonus Act. The Bonus Act provides for the payment of bonuses between 8.3% to 20%. However, for the calculation of a bonus, a maximum salary of 3,500 is considered. Now, next topic explained by my friend Sivaram.
Shivaram from Electrical Section, Team 3. Today I am going to say about laws relating to Social Security. Labor Welfare Fund Act. The Labor Welfare Fund Act provides for the concept of the Labor Welfare Fund to promote and carry out various activities and conducive to the welfare of labor in the state of to ensure full and appropriate utilization of the fund. Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. The Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 applies to every factory, mine, oil field, plantation, port, and railway company. Every shop or establishment within the meaning of any law for the time being in force and in relation to the shops and establishments in the state in which 10 or more persons are employed or were employed on any day on the preceding 12 months. And such other establishments are classes of establishments in which 10 or more persons are employed or were employed on any day of the preceding 12 months, as the central government may be by notification specify in the behalf. The Gratuity Act provides for a scheme for the payment of gratuity to employees engaged in factories, mines, oil fields, plantations, ports, railway companies, shops, or other establishments. The Gratuity Act enforces the payment of gratuity, a reward for long services, as a statutory literal benefit. Now, Employees Provident Funds and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. Gokul slide change. The Employees Provident Funds and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952 provides for the institutions of the Gokul slide change. Institution of Provident Funds, Pensions Funds, and Depository Linked Insurance Funds for employees and employees to the all establishments employing 20 or more persons or class of persons. An establishment to which the EPF Act applies shall continue to be governed by the Act, notwithstanding that the number of persons employed therein at any time falls below 20. The 2014 amendment further lays down the following changes. New members drawing wages above 15,000 per month shall not be eligible to voluntarily contribute to the person's pension scheme. The pensionable salary shall be calculated on the average monthly pay for the contribution period of last 60 months preceding the date of exit from the membership. The monthly pension for any exiting or further members shall not be less than 1,000 for the financial year 2014-2015. The contribution payable under the insurance scheme shall also be calculated on the monthly pay of rupees 15,000 instead of 6,500. In the event of death of member, the insurance benefits available under the insurance scheme has been increased by 20% in addition to the already admissible benefits. Now you can see the Employee State Insurance Act 1948. Slide change. Local slide change. The Employee State Insurance Act 1948 is a social welfare legislation enacted with the objective of providing certain benefits to employees in case of sickness, maternity, and employment injury. In terms of the provisions of the ESI Act, the eligible employees will receive medical relief, cash benefits, maternity benefits, pension to their dependents of increased workers and compensation for fatal or other injuries and diseases. It is applicable to the establishment where 10 or more persons are employed. All employees, including casual, temporary or contract employees drawing wages less than 50,000 per month, are covered under the ESI Act. This limit has been increased from 10,000 to 15,000. The employer is required to contribute at the rate of 4.75% of the wages paid or payable in respect of every wage period. The employees are also required to contribute at the rate of 1.75% of their wages. It is the responsibility of the employer to deposit such contributors in respect of all employees into the ESI account. Now you can see this picture. It is showing about laws related to equality and empowerment of women. Slide change. Equal Remuneration Act 1976. Google slide change. The Equal Remuneration Act 1976 provides for the payment of equal remuneration to men and women workers for the same work and prevents discrimination on the ground of sex against women in the matter of employment, requirement for matters connected therewith are actually incidental thereto. This act applies to virtually every kind of establishment. Maternity Benefit Act 1961. The Maternity Benefit Act 1961 regulates the employment of women in certain establishments for a certain period before and after childbirth and provides for maternity benefits and certain other benefits including maternity leave, wages, bonus, nursing breaks, etc. to women employees. The Maternity Benefit Act 1961 applies to a factory, mine or plantation, including any such establishment belonging to government and to very establishment wherein persons are employed for the acquisition of equestrian, acrobatic and other performance. Every shops or establishment within the meaning of any law for the time being to enforce in relation to shops and establishment in state in which 10 or more persons are employed or were employed on any day of the preceding 12 months. Under the Maternity Benefit Act, an employer has to give paid leave to women worker for 6 months, 6 weeks immediately, following the day of her delivery or miscarriage on any 2 weeks following a tubectomy operation. The maximum period for which a woman shall be entitled to maternity benefit shall be 12 weeks, of which not more than 6 weeks shall precede the date of expected delivery. Now, my friend Abid will continue.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Siva. My name is Syed Abid from Team 3. Now I will proceed the following. As we discussed earlier about the industrial laws and etc. And now we will discuss one of the subtopic which is known as child labors in the industrial laws. Child labors. This is a prohibitive labor laws. Child Labors Act 1986. The Constitution of India incorporates provision to secure the protection to children. It expressly prohibits the employment of child below the age of 14 in work in any factory or mine, engagement in any other hazardous employment. The main motto of this law is to prohibit the children from being involved in any employment of which is considered as hazardous. And the policy of the government is to ban the employment of the children below the age of 14 years in factories, mines, hazardous employment, and to regulate the working conditions of children in other industries. Well, apart from this Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act, there are the other legislations which is also protect the interest of the child laborers For example, the Factories of 1948 and the Mines Act 1952. These prohibit the employment of children below the age of 14 years. The Children Act 1933 also makes an agreement to place the labor of child void. The main impactment of the government is to enact the child labors, which prohibits the employment of children which is not who not completed their 14 years in 16 occupations and 65 procedures like cleaning of ash pits, building operations, manufacturing or handling of pesticides, insecticides, manufacturing of explosives, fireworks, etc., which is considered as a hazardous employment for being a children. And another subtopic, that is sexual harassment at workplace. This is considered as one of the major act of 2013 because it deals with the security of the women and security and protection of the women. So it is considered as one of the major act passed on 2013 by the government of India. This act deals with the sexual harassment at workplace, prohibition, prevention, and redressal act, which is also known as SHW Act, was enacted by the Parliament to provide protection against the sexual harassment of women at the workplace and prevention and redressal of the complaints as well for sexual harassment. This SHW Act makes an mandatory for every organization having the 10 employees and more constitute an internal complaint committee to entertain the complaints that may be made by an agreed woman. Then the laws relating to the employment and training, which is also known as the Apprentice Act 1961. The Apprentice Act 1961, also known as Apprentice, which is known as the something related to the skilled labors, which is known to be skilled labors. The Apprentice Act 1961 provides the regulation and control of training and the apprentice to the supplement the availability of trained technical employees for the industries matters in connection to after. The Apprentice Act reacts employers to hire the apprentice to certain designated trades notified by the government. Accordingly, appointed of apprentice according to the Apprentice Act will be obligatory if the company falls under the notified industry. It provides the qualification for being engaged in an apprentice contract of apprenticeship, renewal of a contract of apprenticeship, period of apprenticeship, termination of apprenticeship contracts. This is nothing but the apprentice which mostly deals with the trained technical employees in the industries. And finally, Employment Exchange Compulsory Notification of Vacancies Act 1959. This majorly deals with the vacancies of the employees to being employed in the industries, which is also known as the Employment Exchange Act 1959. It is passed by the Government of India. This Employment Exchange Notification Act 1959 provides the compulsory notification of vacancies to employment exchanges by the employees. Section 401. Employment Exchange Act make it obligatory on every establishment in the public sector to notify before filling up any vacancies in any employment in is that establishment vacancies to such employment exchanges as may be described. The further 4.2 of the Employment Exchange Act provides that the appropriate government may, by the notification in the official gazette, require that form and such as date as specified in the notification. Before filling up any vacancy in any employment in the establishment, you notify vacancy to such employment exchange as may be prescribed. Now the further proceeding will be continued by my friend Vignesh. Thank you.
Thank you, Abid. My name is Vignesh. I'm going to say about the topic related to RAS, related to working hours, conditions of service, and employment. So, basically, when we come to Mines Act, it was established by 1952, which aims to secure safety and health and welfare of workers working in the mines. Mines, when it compares to the digging, excavation work is carried on, which searching and obtaining of minerals like gold, diamond, or whatever else. The Mines Act provides that person working in the mine should not be less than 18 years of age. It's like a compulsory age prohibition where in mines people less than children less than 18 they could not be working in there. And then the Mines Act lays down provisions of appointment of one chief inspector who would be regulating all the necessary laws and some instructions which could not be function and which could be function, and he will be checking those mines which could be subordinated to a chief inspector. He will be mining those things. And then, moreover, the district magistrate is also empowered to perform the duties of an inspector subject to the orders of the central government. The district magistrate is also empowered. He has the power to subject the duty inspector, whoever can make the mining people. Order them to do the works wherever they need to, and then they should obey the orders of the central government so that they can obey the laws of the factory and the mines act. The chief inspector or any of the inspectors may make such inquiry at any time, whether day or night, in order to check whether the law is being abided in the mines or not. The chief inspector may also may start an inquiry about this mining thing, whether it is functioning, whether the laws are being obedient, and then the laws are like it's been empowered, and then it's been obeyed by the people in the mines. And then next. Then Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, which was published by 1946, is applicable to every industrial establishment wherein 100 or more workmen are employed or on any date of the preceding 12 months. The ISO Act brings to uniform terms and conditions of service in various industrial establishments. The IESO Act requires every employer in the industrial establishment to clearly define and publish standing orders with respect to the conditions of employment or service rules, and to make them known to the workmen employed by it. The Act further specifies that every employer to his worker to submit to the certifying officer 5 draft copies of the standing orders which he intends to order for this establishment. It's like people who are applying for the Employment Act, they should submit the orders of like certificates, whichever they need to certify them. So they have to submit like 5 draft copies of the standing orders, which intends to order for the establishment. Further, the IESO Act requires display of standing orders in a prominent place for the knowledge of the workers. Weekly Holiday Act 1942. It was established like it was a Weekly Holiday Act which was established in 1942. Provides the grant of weekly holidays to persons employed in shops, restaurants, and theaters. The Act provides that every shop shall remain entirely closed on one day of the week, which day shall be specified by the shopkeeper in a notice permanently exhibited in a conspicuous place in the shop. Further, the state government may require, in respect of the shops or any other specified class of shops, that they shall be closed at such hour in the afternoon of one weekday in every week, in addition to weekly day off. The Weekly Holiday Act gives the people holidays like weekends, whichever they work out for the weekdays. So, and another thing, they can provide the shopkeepers and the shop owners, whoever is taking care of the shops, they can predominantly provide holidays like 2 to 3 hours break between this weekdays, so they can apply to the further. I mean, apply to the state government that requires a notice to them, and then they can make a notice which requires the 1 week or something else. They may take this or leave or something else. Next. Factory Act, which was established 1948, lays down provisions for health, safety, welfare, and service condition of workmen working in factories. It contains provisions for working hours of adults, employment of young persons, leaves, overtime, etc. It applies to all factories employing more than 10 people and working with aid of power, or employing 20 people and working without the aid of power. It covers all workers employed in the factory, premises, or presence, directly or through an agency, including a contractor, involving in any manufacture. Some provisions of the Act may vary according to the nature of work of the establishment. Some major provisions of the Factories Act are explained. Section 11 of the Act provides the factory shall be clean and free from effluvia arising from any drain, private, and or other nuisance. Section 13 of the Act focuses on ventilation and temperature maintenance at workplace. Section 18 of the Act regarding arrangements for sufficient pure and pure drinking water for the workers. Section 19 describes the accommodation for unions should be clean in a definite manner. Section 21 of Act provides proper fencing of machinery. It should be tight checked. It should be checked once before it starts or when it gonna end. And then Section 45 of the Act says that properly maintained, the factory should be properly maintained and well equipped first aid box, and they should have a well equipped first aid box or cupboard with a prescribed contents. For every 150 workers employed at one time, there shall not at least be there shall be at least one first aid kit. It can be more than one first aid kit. Also, in case where there are more than 500 workers, there should be a well maintained ambulance room of prescribed size and containing proper facility, which gives extra like ventilation cylinder, oxygen cylinder, like that. Next, the Marchera. And then thank you for everyone. Thank you for giving this opportunity on behalf of ma'am. We got this good opportunity for making this project. Thank you everyone, and thank you for having patience to listen to this project.